then when I went back teaching, I loved teaching, but like everyone has a dream, everyone has a passion, and mine was music. I think I was in the back of my mind hoping that it would happen someday. But I got to 25, 26, and I kind of thought, okay, this isn't really happening. It's like when you're younger and you hope to be a professional soccer player, and then you get to that age and you're like, right, sure, this isn't
Right,
going to
right, right,
happen,
yeah,
you know.
yeah,
And
exactly, exactly.
yeah, I suppose you've a bit more lenient with music. You can try it later in life and acting and stuff like that. But yeah, I kind of had given up hope on anything extraordinary happening in my life. I suppose not that I didn't love teaching and not that I wasn't having a very, fulfilled and happy life. But I'd kind of given up hope on stardom. But
Mhm.
wouldn't you know? Then I met these two feckers, and sure, look at us now.
Bringing it backward. This is about you all and your journey in music. Kind of, we'll get your brief origin stories and how you all met, and obviously talk about the EP and all the success you've had recently. It's been all fairly recent since the band started, from what I've been reading. Right?
Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. We'll start with Oshin. We'll start with you because you're on my screen. So we're born and raised in Ireland, I would imagine. Were
Yeah,
you did,
so
what part of Ireland?
yeah, I'm from a place called County Sligo. It's basically the northwest of Ireland, and be pretty rural kind of place. So obviously, you probably heard of Dublin, Adam. Dublin is
Yes.
kind of the big city in Ireland, and then the rest of it would be pretty rural, to be honest. And the two
Okay.
other boys we're all from pretty rural places. And then essentially to skip to the Amble story, like I just got a job up in Dublin. And a couple of weeks later, Robbie texted me and was like, I see you're living in Dublin. Do you want to play some music or sing a couple of songs? Some even that was about 2 years ago. And we went over and we started singing like John Prine covers and just a couple of the artists that we liked and a couple of our own songs. And someone reached out to Robbie in his home place in Leitrim, which would be pretty near where I'm from, to do a little gig. And basically, once we had the gig locked in, I text Ross and said, would you have any interest in playing with us, like to just join in on the mandolin? And he basically rocked up that night. He'd never really heard the songs before, rocked up on stage, played along, and we were like, this guy's nuts. Let's let's bring this guy with us, kind of thing. That's the really quick version of how we met. To be honest, Adam, unless the two boys have anything to add.
Well, I'm just gonna start with you again real quick, Oshin. I want to know, like, how did you get into music? Like, do you come from a musical household at all, or and like, how do you like? What's the first
Yeah,
instrument you learned how to
my
play?
my house, like the family growing up, it probably is very musical in the sense that everyone played traditional Irish music, which is it'd be very different from what we're doing in terms of like selling tickets and writing songs. Nobody was writing songs in my family, but at the same time, everyone kind of sings and everyone plays a tune. I mean, if I'm going home at Christmas, everyone's going to play something, and a big sing song is kind of the culture here. But at the same time, nobody's like, let's try and sell out a room and everyone come to our gig. It wouldn't be that kind of it wouldn't be that
Sure.
kind of culture at all. So that was very new to my family. Like when that all started with the gigs, like my mother and father had barely been to a gig in their lives, even though they played
Wow.
music their whole lives. It's so casual here, the kind of culture of music. Um, but then yeah, like I would have in school, I just started to become very interested in like songwriting and other songwriters. I was kind of fascinated by it, and just the idea of kind of writing my own song kind of just like became a little bit obsessed with it. So I started
Mhm.
at like 16, 17, and to be honest, I've been basically writing songs ever since. And as you'll see, Adam, the two other boys also write songs. So we have a kind of unique dynamic in the band in that we're all bringing songs to the table.
Love it. Okay, well
Yeah.
then we'll go to you, Robbie. So you were you also from Northern Ireland? What part of Ireland did you come from?
Yeah, well, I actually grew up in the east of Ireland, Adam. I grew up in a county called Meath, in a town called Navan, which is a pretty big town. And I grew up fairly close to the town, so I was used to that kind of life. But every
Hmm.
summer, we went to the west of Ireland to a county called Leitrim. That's where my dad grew up and was from. So every summer, then myself and my siblings, I'm the youngest of four, we just fell in love with the west of Ireland. It was, my dad had a farm there, and it was just so beautiful to escape from the town and then get there for the summer and be able to just play and in the forest and the fields. Our house is surrounded by
by wooded area, and there's lakes and there's beaches close by and stuff. So we kind of fell in love with the west of Ireland, myself and my siblings, and I think my parents always had it in their mind that we were going to move to the west. And then when I finished primary school or elementary school, when I was about 12 years of age, it just so happened that like all of us were in the a good stage of our lives that we could move. So we did, and we moved to the west of Ireland. So I would consider myself more of a Leitrim man and a west of Ireland man because, you know, I grew up then. I went to secondary school and I played football for that county and everything. So, and I've lived there since pretty much. That's my home. Then obviously I went to college in Dublin, so I have been living up here for the last 8, 9 years. I was a primary school teacher in Dublin before I met the two guys. I taught kids. I was an elementary school teacher. Um,
Wow.
yeah, so I only gave up that job last January. That was I met these guys the year before, and I did Amble and taught kids for a year, and then Amble just started taking up so much time, and things started going in the right direction, and we got signed by a label and stuff like that. And then we just said, "Feck it, we need to go at this full time and pursue it." So that's what I did. I packed in the teaching, and we've been Amble since. That's been my job. So yeah, and that's me.
What about excuse me, did you come from a musical household at all, or and did you learn how to play
Yeah,
guitar or anything at a young age?
I suppose similar to Oisin, my house would all be quite musical, more so singing than instruments. I sing, that's what I do in the band, but
Mhm.
everybody in my family could sing a song pretty well. We all played piano growing up, and we all played guitar. I tried to play banjo and the violin for a while as well. But I always loved to sing, as I said, and I kind of got a bit older then, and I was like, I can't really play the fiddle or the violin and sing, or I can't bring a piano with me. And I
Yeah.
wasn't, and banjo was more tunes, like Irish traditional tunes, and you can't really sing along to them. So I plagued my brother to teach me how to play guitar because he was playing guitar at the time. He was probably 16, 17. He had a girlfriend and he used to be trying to impress her with this guitar and singing and stuff. So I was looking
Usually
up
how it
to
starts, right?
yeah, I was looking up to him saying I need to get on this bandwagon. So I got my brother to teach me four chords basically. It was G, D, E minor, and C, and I just realized that I could play hundreds and thousands of songs that I love with those four chords.
Yeah.
So I just kept at it and kept at it and kept at it, and then guitar became my number one instrument. And as I said, I loved to sing and be able to play with an instrument, you know, with that. I did always love music. I went to college, and as I said, I became a teacher. So I think I kind of lost that for a little while in college. I was more interested in just trying to, you know, find my way in Dublin and make new
Mhm.
friends and stuff like that in my social life. And then I think during COVID, I moved back home as we all did. And, you know, I was back with my parents. I felt like a child again. I really didn't have much to do. You know, it was
Sure.
4 years by myself in Dublin and teaching kids. And then all of a sudden I was back having breakfast with my mum and dad. And, you know, life just really slowed down, and it was a lovely pace. And that's when I kind of started picking up a guitar and thinking about writing songs. I never wrote a song until I was probably 22. Um,
Wow.
yeah, but that's when I kind of started falling in love with songwriting, and when I started giving music a bit of a proper go. I remember I set up a close friends story on Instagram, and I added about 30 people to it that I knew well, and I used to put up covers of me playing, and like I'd say 28 of the 30 never knew I could even sing or play guitar. And people used to reply back saying, "Geez, you're good at this." So I think
Yeah.
that was kind of that was a little bit of a confidence boost. But still, even the private story showed you that I didn't have much confidence in myself. I would never post it on a proper social media. I knew all those people I was sending it to, and I knew that they were going to be nice to me, basically. So even if I was bad, but that was it, Adam. To be honest, then when I went back teaching, I loved teaching. But like everyone has a dream, everyone has a passion, and mine was music. And you know, I think I was in the back of my mind hoping that it would happen someday. But you know, I got to 25, 26, and I kind of thought, okay, this isn't really happening. It's like when you're younger and you hope to be a professional soccer player, and then you get to that age and you're like, right, sure. this isn't
Right,
going to
right,
happen,
yeah,
you know.
yeah,
And
exactly, exactly.
yeah, I suppose you've a bit more lenience with music. You can try it later in life and acting and stuff like that. But yeah, I kind of had given up hope on anything extraordinary happening in my life. I suppose not that I didn't love teaching, and not that I wasn't having a very, fulfilled and happy life. But I'd kind of given up hope on stardom. But
Mhm.
wouldn't you know? Then I met these two feckers, and sure, look at us now.
um, I have real quick question for you because I was just when I was reading about you all, I saw that you hadn't really sang like live. I mean, you did. Sounds like you did those covers that you would show to a small group of
Yeah.
people. But before this band, you didn't like play like open mics or anything like that, right?
No,
Was
God,
that your
God no.
first?
No,
So
I was also I was always in the back of my mind into like theater and stuff like that. And I did think about it after school to pursue that and maybe do something like that, because I did musicals in secondary school. I did two school musicals, and I got the lead role in both of them, and I loved them. And I would have been much more into sports in school, and a footballer more so than music. So it would have been a bit
mhm,
of a shock for people to see me singing and on stage. I think it's in Ireland as well, especially the culture in football is so big that when you're in that
sure.
culture, you kind of stay in your lane and you don't veer too much out of that. But the two times I did the musicals, I remember getting such a buzz and a high on stage, and I loved it. And I that kind of gave me a taste for it. But that was the most I ever sang in front of anyone, and I was probably 13 years of age, and the second time I was
Wow.
maybe 16. But that was it. No, that was my only experience with music and singing in front of anyone. We did Grease, the Lightning, and Oliver Twist. So
Nice.
Danny Zuko, yeah.
What was it like, having the, like, opportunity to, go into your job as a teacher and say, "Hey, like, I this, I'm gonna have to I'm putting in my notice," right? Like, I get to
um,
that must
I
have been a
think
big day, right? To be able to say, "Hey, I'm gonna pursue this music thing."
yeah, it was a huge day, Adam. But to be honest, Amble grew so quickly among friends, family, people in Ireland. Ireland is a pretty small place, but within a couple of months, we started selling out shows and rooms that are very well respected in Ireland. Not the biggest rooms, a couple of hundred,
Mhm.
but still,
Still.
legendary rooms to start off in. And I found myself every lunch break and stuff like that in the canteen in school, and all anyone was talking to me about was Amble and the music, and how good it's going and everything like that. So I think a lot of the staff nearly foreshadowed that I would be leaving, someday to pursue it. And I think it just became more and more undoable, I suppose, because we used to be having gigs midweek, and we'd be having the full 16 pints, as we do say. and,
And then you gotta
and
get to school to teach the next day.
yeah, then you got to get in the next day, and I was just my heart wasn't in the teaching anymore. Once I found Amble, once I found these two guys, and once I found this buzz, this new feeling of being on stage in front of people and it connecting with people, that was all I wanted to do. And I nearly felt like I was doing the children an injustice then by going in and trying to teach with half-heartedly.
Mhm.
So it was only fair, I think, to myself and to the school that I just left and went at Amble. And sure, since then everything's gone this way. So I think it's been a great decision, and hopefully
That's
I'll say that in a couple of years too. Yeah.
Oh, I would think so. That's amazing, man. Well, what about you, Ross? What part of Ireland were you from?
I'm from bang in the middle of Ireland. It's called Longford. I think Oisin describes it as the Nebraska of America. If that
Okay.
if that makes sense. In Ireland,
That does. That narrows it
yeah,
down for me.
it's a flat area that people drive through. Get it? But no, so I grew up. Grew up in Longford. And I suppose like the boys' music was very big in my house. Trad music in particular, Irish traditional music. They used to kind of say we were like the Van Trapp family of North Longford. There was just a room full of instruments, and you just picked out
Wow.
of it, and we were all just playing. But I remember I was handed a mandolin when I was like 4 years old because I was so small. It was the only thing I could physically hold. They wanted me to play banjo, but I couldn't play it. I
It
didn't
was
have
too
the
big.
arms. So I started on a mandolin, and I've always loved it. I always loved playing music, and it was trad music. And then I became a teenager and went to college and found the music I really like to play. And I started playing banjos with different types, different genres of music, and I suppose similar to Robbie, unlike well, actually in difference to Robbie, COVID, I kind of found myself falling out of love with music. I kind of felt like I was finished with music, and that I was also a teacher, and I was going to just go. I was very happy teaching, and I just thought I'd played music enough. And then I met the two lads, and it was just like, no, this has been waiting for me. Essentially, this is what I wanted, and I could not play and not have a go at it. And that's 2 years ago. That's 2 years ago, and haven't looked back.
And you also had to do the quit teaching school thing too. Was it
Yeah,
that must have been big?
yeah. So I was a secondary school teacher.
Right.
So I was teaching like 12 to 18-year-olds. And I found myself being a hypocrite, to be honest, Adam. I found myself going in and telling the lads that, like, they were at an age where they were deciding where they wanted to go to college and what they wanted to pursue as a career. And I would have been
Mhm.
at the top of the classroom going, you should do what you love, and you should not
You
not
should
think about
drop out and
certainty. You
do
should, yeah.
music.
I was like, don't think about certainty, think about what you're really passionate about, and go and pursue it. And then I was at the top of the room telling them this, yet I had this passion of mine that was music, and I wasn't taking my own advice.
Mhm.
So I was a bit of a hypocrite for a while, and that I had to, maybe the best lesson I ever showed them was me leaving and pursuing music. And I thought that would stand to maybe a 15, 16-year-old young man. He'd see that and go, that's inspiration, especially in rural Ireland, exactly where become a teacher or a nurse or a guard is kind of maybe a policeman. Sorry, is I like to show my students that there was lots out there in the world, and you could do it if you wanted to. So that's why, yeah, it definitely came that moment.
I love it. I love it. Ocean, so you were like a assigned data scientist or something like that? Is that what I saw? So you had
Yeah,
something
it's
totally different than a
super,
teacher.
super interesting stuff. Yeah.
Uh,
No, I was working as a data scientist. Yeah, like a computer programmer basically. So to be honest, Adam, it was much less heartbreaking for me to quit my job. It was like
You're like,
chat to you
thank
later,
you.
never speak again. And
Oh,
yeah, people actually ask us about, like, did you take like a career break and stuff, or did you hold on to some bit of security? But we all just pulled the plug and went for it because this is hopefully our lives. To be honest, now Adam is Amble.
that's awesome.
Yeah,
So
I think
sorry, go ahead.
sorry, Adam, to cut across you, but
No.
I think subconsciously none of us wanted that safety net underneath us, because then it was like we don't wholeheartedly believe what we're about to jump into. So I think we all wanted to just terminate the contracts and go for Amble, and then we'll figure it out. If Amble doesn't work out, we'll figure it out. But we didn't want to take a career break or something like that, because then it was just like, sure, we'll half go at Amble, and we still can teach next year if it doesn't work out. I
Right.
think, without saying it, we were all like, we're going to quit, fully quit. So that was, I think that was important, and I think that was our subconscious maybe telling us what we were really thinking.
Yeah,
Where are
I've
you? Where are
actually
you, where are you
somebody
from,
told
Adam?
I'm from San Diego,
Cool.
Southern
Okay.
California, and now I live in
Yeah, yeah.
Nashville now.
Cool,
But
cool.
I had somebody on this podcast say, if you have something to fall back on, you will.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Was
yeah.
like their point, and I thought that was so interesting. And that's kind of what you guys are saying, where it's like you subconsciously just said, if you think you're going to go back to teaching in a year, you might end up going back teaching in a year. So it's like you
Yeah.
just kill all the contracts. This is it, and we don't need that safety net. Let's just go forward and see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%.
It's
Um.
funny, the fellow who signed us, or sorry, the man who signed us, Adam, is his name's Sean Stevens. He's actually from San Diego as well. So
Oh
he
wow.
he he basically triggered this conversation. So we were still all working in the jobs we just mentioned there. We got an email from Sean in Warner, and he was just like, "I'm just letting you guys know you have a massive fan in California, and I want to talk to you as soon as you have a moment." And then just the
Wow.
ball the ball started rolling.
That's so wild. So you knew Robbie Ocean before you guys met Ross
Yeah,
then.
essentially, my girlfriend is from the same place where Robbie grew up that he was describing there. So we just knew of each other. I just knew the name of Robbie Cunningham, good footballer, talented fella. I don't even know how I knew him, to be honest. Like, and then Ross was kind of in a previous band, so Ross has been involved in music a lot more than I suppose myself and Robbie. but he had a little bit more experience, and I was kind of I was just following him on Instagram basically as like he's a very good musician, and
Okay.
basically I thought Ross lived in Dublin. I texted him one day being like, "Do you want to just come over and play music here with me and Robbie, see what happens?" And Ross was like, "I'm in Longford, no." But
No.
we got there in the end.
Okay, so how do so Ross and Ocean, you started what, playing together, and then what, got a gig? Like, kind of tell me that story where Ross eventually joins up with you guys.
Yeah, Rob, you tell it there. It was your home gig.
Um, no, it was essentially that, Adam. I was always, seeing these guys in a pub in Dublin on a Friday evening and weekends, and they're playing a guitar in the corner and singing and getting pints handed to them for free, and I was just like, why am I spending all my hard-earned money on this when I could be sitting in that corner playing guitar and I'd be
Drinking
fecking
for
better.
free.
I'd sing Wonderwall better than that fella, So but I was never going to do it on my own. I didn't have the confidence to do it on my own because I had never really sang, as I was saying, in front of anyone. So that's why I reached out to Oshin, and that was genuinely our plan, was to just play some covers together, get good at singing together, the harmonies down, get a little bit of chemistry, and try and get it into a little pub or try and get a little gig somewhere, maybe open mic, stuff like that. And that was it. Then just someone at home knew that I played guitar and reached out to me to open up for them at a gig in Manor Hamilton and Leitrim. And exactly as Ushin says, he just reached out to Ross, and Ross said, he actually said that he had a football match, and he said if he wins the football match, he won't be able to come and play with us because he'll have a final. But if he loses, he will. And thank God he lost, because
Ah.
because then he was able to come. And to be honest, Adam, it's a big thing in Ireland with trad music, traditional Irish music, as the lads were saying, where an Irish trad player could just kind of jump into any session, live session, and play along without, previously knowing the tunes or whatever. And that kind of blew my mind when Ross came and played with us, because all of these songs I had written and Oisin had written, Ross had never heard before, but yet he was playing them as if he wrote them. And he was able to play riffs with them that just elevated the songs. And I just thought it was amazing. So that's Ross just came and he'd never heard the songs and he just played with us. And it was so funny because after the gig, we got a standing ovation actually, and we were the opening act, which was really cool. But I was so
Jeez.
nervous, and like Ross had been involved in music, and Oisin was so nervous that I couldn't speak to them beforehand, and I was pacing up and down the corridor backstage, and I was nearly getting sick. And Oisin like was head in the hands, like didn't know where to look, and Ross was just looking at the two of us like, who are these rookies? Like, what what have I signed myself up to here? And then the next day or the next week, everyone who was at the show was saying, "Oh, the lads are brilliant." And what about the guy on the mandolin? Or they were so. So then Ross, we were very lucky. Ross just messaged us the next day and said, "Lads, I think that music was special last night, and it's too good not to pursue." And then I suppose it was Ross that brought the more professional aspect of it, or the ambition, and he said, "We should do this properly. We'll set up a name, an Instagram, Spotify, ticketed gigs, all that stuff," because he had that experience. And in all fairness, I think Oisin would agree with me in saying we bypassed a lot of mistakes that we would have made as a band because of Ross's experience, and he kind of played manager slash band member for a good year, and he still is in a lot of ways. But look, I love you, Ross, and
And
we'll
we're all
miss
happy you
everything.
lost that football game.
Yeah, no, but that was how it all started. I think another thing, Adam, that's worth saying. I know I'm fucking harping on a lot here. Sorry, lads, but I think the way we all became such good friends, from the get go, it was like music was nearly second. It was just that the three of us became genuinely best friends, and we loved hanging out with each other. And at the start, we just kept going out for pints and kept sharing all these stories and the highs and lows of our whole lives, because we knew nothing about each other. That it
Mhm.
was just, I think we all found each other very interesting, and we loved hanging out with each other. And people that meet us now always say like it's as if you were best friends from when you were 2 years of age. So I
Yeah.
think that had a huge part to play in Amble. Anyways, I'm going to mute myself now and let the
I
two
love
boys
you
talk.
too, Robbie, by the way.
I love it. Well, so once the band gets, you okay, we're going to be called Amble. We got uh you get Ross help set up the Instagram and all the things and the Spotify, and like, how quickly are you guys seeing like kind of progress with the shows? Was it, I mean, it sounds like from the first show you guys get a standing ovation. So then Does
Uh,
the band just slowly start building, and then eventually, how do you get this email from somebody in San Diego that works for Warner Records wanting to have a
it
chat
was
with you
also
all?
Adam that like I guess every band has to have their first show, but the moment that hit me was that basically from the very first show we ever did, people were singing every line of the songs, and I was like, there's no way, even if it's your friends and family at the gig, there's no way this is normal. Like,
No.
where the gig in Dublin, I think it was maybe 150 people, and of course we probably knew 70, 80%. But I mean, like every line of the songs was sang back, and I get now every Amble gig is like that, and you're kind of semi getting used to it. But when that happened initially, I remember just being like, this is insane. This is not normal. And
Uh-huh.
then one show in the summer, we did another show in the kind of like the autumn winter, maybe twice the size. And also, what happened at that point was that our now manager texted us and was like, "Who are you guys? Are you actually selling out these shows without any connections to anyone in the industry?" He kind of didn't believe us. He reached
And
out
was
to
he
Ross.
all is he from Ireland as well? So does he hears
Yeah,
about you
he
guys?
reached out to Ross. You could probably tell it even like the
Yeah, I suppose for me, in my experience, we were like selling. It could have took me in a different band like 4 years to sell 150 tickets.
Sure, that's
And
most bands, right?
yeah, and I had seen no fully, and I had seen that. And we put on a 150 seater in Dublin, and it sold out, and we only had like one or two songs out. And I just kind of early on was like, this is not how I've known music to be. It's not normal. Um, and then when our manager wrote to us, he kind of assumed that we were, you know, putting the sold out sign on the poster and it not being sold out, and or
Yeah,
maybe
or had money that was like you bought all the tickets or something like
yeah,
that, yeah.
we were bringing our cousins that we didn't like. We were telling them, "Come on, you gotta come."
We'll
But
pay for your ticket.
there was none of that. And when he saw that, he was like, "This is wow. This is like it really has just went so quick, and it's real." And
Mhm.
as Ushin said, I've often thought on there's no like method or there's no like magic formula to it, but it was very simple in that it was the music, it was the songs, the people were connecting with the songs in some way, and they were singing them back, and that's what made it go essentially, in Ireland so quick, because that is what it definitely has been.
yeah.
So
We
and
did
then
a we
sorry,
did
go ahead.
sorry. No,
No,
just
no, no.
we did a gig last Dublin in a place called the Sugar Club to 300 people and really really good night. But last week we just put on a gig in Dublin, 5,000 people, and that sold out in like 2 days. So that is
That's crazy.
that's like the kind of trajectory we're talking about here, and we are still blown away by that, like because it's still very new to us. I was
Of
still
course.
working as a scientist in March, so
Yeah.
the trajectory has been a little bit insane.
And it wasn't like you had, or maybe you did and I missed it, but like you didn't have, like, it wasn't like you all put a song up on TikTok or something and then
No.
like it blew up and then you had this viral moment and people are like, oh, hey.
Yeah.
It was
I
like
don't I don't
word of
think so.
mouth and like
Yeah,
just people knowing that it's good and you're getting people in seats, which is the hardest thing to do, even if you have a viral song. I mean,
yeah.
this is such a story that you don't hear very often.
I
I
think
think it's so cool.
I think Adam, for us it was the live shows that really just kicked us on because we got a support act when we were very new in Ireland, and we followed a band called Kingfisher, and in all fairness to them, they gave us a great plug at the start of our careers because we hadn't really played any of these rooms before. So they asked us to come and open for them. So we played maybe 5 shows with them in Ireland, and for all 5 shows, the room was full, which is really great for a support act. So we got to play in front of all these people who never really heard of Amble. And off the back of that support tour, we announced pretty much our own tour in the same rooms for like the following March, so a couple of months later. And off the back of that, we did the same again in Ireland, and then we went to the UK, and then we went to America, and the rooms have just gotten bigger and bigger based or off the back of all these shows we've done. And obviously, simultaneously, we put out music, and the following has got bigger online and all. But there hasn't been one peak or one song that just got us on the map. It was just live shows, releasing music, and every time we've played these tours, we've got to go to bigger and better rooms each time. So long may that continue.
Yeah,
Mhm.
wow. And so then you have and then well, tell me about getting reached out to by Warner, this person in California said, yeah, they have a
Yeah,
fan
well,
because you
I
have
was
a
actually
an EP out right before you have a new one coming, but you put an EP
yeah.
out what independently, right?
Yeah, we had a live EP, which was just we just went to a studio one day and recorded the songs one take and kind of picked our favorites.
That's
So
crazy.
I'd say it cost about €50, $50 to do that day. Um, and in credit here to Sean Stevens and Warner, because we're talking about our following here. Like, we probably had about max 3,000 followers on Instagram. So he certainly wasn't like plucking us from some viral moment or anything. There
Hmm.
wasn't any moment at all. We thought it was a spam email, to be perfectly honest, Adam. Like, I thought it was a joke. I was I was Googling his name, being like, does he actually work in Warner? Like,
Is this guy real? Yeah.
is it just a fake account? But we obviously replied, "You're going to reply to it," and he instantly replied and was like, "Let's get on a call right now." And to be honest, I remember I was sitting where I'm sitting right now, and you're talking to this A&R fella in Warner, and he was like, "I would sign you guys right here, right now," and we were basically like, "Sure do."
That
Damn.
Yeah,
that phone call, Adam, actually was also before we ever even did the support tour that I was talking about. So like
Wow.
we were so new, we barely knew each other, and I think if he had of or if Warner had assigned us there and then, I think it would have been so overwhelming, and I don't think we would have been. Well, I don't know, maybe we would have, but I think it would have been maybe too much for us because we hadn't really played that much live. We hadn't really hung out together that much. But the whole process after that took about 6, 7 months to
Hmm.
actually get it over the line. And in those 6, 7 months, we hung out with each other an awful lot. We played 30, 40 shows in front of new audiences. Our following went from 3,000 to 40,000, the Spotify, everything. So I think it was a blessing, really, in hindsight, that it didn't happen there and then. I think the lads would agree with that. I just think I think we were way too new. We hadn't even, played really together that often. He was asking us about our songwriting process and everything. And sure, I was getting ready for school the next day. Like, I wasn't, we weren't songwriting. We weren't doing any of this stuff. Of course, we said we were. We were like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
full time
Of
musicians. Yeah,
course, right?
big time. We've been at this for years. Like, yeah, but in reality, I met Ross about 2 months before that. So I think it would have been too overwhelming for it all to go then. But I think the way it's all worked out has been really perfect. To be honest, Adam.
Yeah, and and for him to say like you have a fan here in California, and then to watch you guys just continue to, you know,
well,
Yeah.
that's the
sell
thing
out
about
more
it.
seats and more seats and just building and building and building. Like, I mean, what an eye for talent and just that's so amazing on your end. I mean, to be able
I
to do
think
that, it's so rare.
also in those couple of months, Adam, he had another act who you might have heard of called Teddy Swims, and
Oh, yeah, I've had him
yeah.
on my podcast and he's
There,
yeah,
There you go.
massive.
there you go. And Teddy completely blew up in those couple of months that we were waiting, and we were all just like, fuck it, sure, sure. That's the end of his interest in Amble, but it
Right,
wasn't.
right.
He was so invested, and even long before we signed, he was constantly checking up on us, what new music we were writing, what we were doing, and I think that was a real testament to him and to us that we're good enough because we were like, if this guy cares enough about what new music we're writing and what we're doing, then maybe we are good enough to do this, and pursue it.
I love it. I love your
Mm.
voice, man. I mean, the songs you guys write are so good, and I like, the Dermot Kennedy is like one of my favorite artists, and he's an Ireland guy, and like his voice and yours, like you don't sound similar, but it just the tone that you all provide. I don't know. For me, it's like, damn, like this is so
I
good.
think I think it's filled with emotion, Adam. I think all our songs are storytelling, and when you're telling a story, it's hard not to get so into it and invested in it. And a lot of our songs aren't the happiest songs in the world either. So
Mhm.
when you close your eyes and start singing them, you just feel them, and
Yeah.
Ross is ripping the bouzouki beside you, and Oisin's plucking the strings. It just gets to me, and I can't help but close my eyes and give it my all. Like, so, I think it's definitely emotion.
I love it. So you signed the deal with Warner Records, and then you have an EP coming out now. So this would have been like the song you've released a couple songs. So the album comes out on Friday, I believe, or the EP comes out on Friday.
Yeah.
So were these the first songs that you let with Little White Chapel and then the Commons? Were these the first songs you went in and like recorded not on $50 in a like in a live take thing?
It's more. It's Go ahead, Ross.
We kind of still do it in the one take, Adam. We as
Wow.
much as possible, we do it in all in the room together, mic up the room, and we play together, because we think that, like, you get feeling from the song, playing off each other. And I
Uh-huh.
think, not to go back to the live gigs, but I think that's why the crowds were so invested too, is because what you heard on Spotify is what you got at a gig. It was the same thing. It was just the three of us playing in a room.
Wow.
And these ones as well coming up, like, they're all like, the Commons was one take. I actually don't think Robbie had sang the Commons prior to that. We sang it like once, just in before we went into the recording room, and then we just sang it once, and that was it. And we said that's the take for the
Oh my
Commons.
gosh.
Very
I
You're
think
like the
original.
dream band for a label
uh,
too. They're like, these guys just come in, do it in one take.
sometimes, though, it takes us. Sometimes we then keep trying to do it. We often find that the first one is the best, because it's like you just feel it and you sing it, and then after that you're kind of doing it again, going, I might try and do this better or change that, and you overthink it. And, like, a lot of the time we went with the first Luke the Nav, which is coming on Luke the Navigator, sorry, which is coming on the EP on Friday. It was all done together in the one room. And thought they all were. We might go in and add a bass to some of the tracks after, and maybe I might do a harmony. I don't like doing it live. I don't want to ruin a take. but
But
uh,
still,
but
I mean, that's
but it's
well,
it's it's all in the room.
what you said is it. I've heard also people say, like, especially like during COVID, like if people would write songs and then they'd go in their, uh, closet with some $50 USB mic and then sing a song, and then once everything opened up, they had the opportunity to go to like a big studio and do the vocal take again, and then it was never as good. It was like you can't
Yeah.
Yeah.
replicate that
Mm.
same. Going back to what Robbie was saying with the emotion, like you can't really replicate that emotion again,
You can't.
like that passion the second time, third time around. If you keep doing it, it's like the first
Yeah.
one is usually the most,
Yeah,
you
I
know.
think you lose it like a little percentage each time you try and do it, and you're chasing that first take all the time. So we're very like, if we don't get it in a take or two, just move on to another song and we'll come back to it again. I think with Lonely Island, I suppose it's our biggest song. It's number one on our Spotify. But that was one take at 3 o'clock in the morning in a studio in Dublin, and we did it. And we went into the studio room to listen to it, and we all thought it was perfect. And the producer, the engineer we had, was like, "Sure, do you want to go back in and do it again?" And we were all like, "Nah, nah, that's."
Yeah, you're
We were
like,
like,
did you
"That's the
hear
one."
that?
Yeah. So we were like, "We're not going to do it better than that." So that was the one. We did it once, and that's been our number one song since. So it's funny how it works. There's no formula. It's just feeling it basically.
Yeah. Well, with the newest song with the Commons, there's a pretty, I mean, there's a quite a story behind that song, right?
Totally,
Yeah.
yeah.
Is that like you found? Well, you tell the story, but I'm just going off what I've read. Is that you guys
Yeah,
found a
yeah.
letter or something, right?
Cross.
Yeah, basically, Adam, I was going home on the train from Dublin to Longford, which I don't get that often. And I just sat down, and I was having a cup of tea, and I pulled down, the tray in front of the chair behind me, and there was just a letter there. There was just an open letter, and it was just a mother's story, on how she lost her 14-year-old boy to suicide. And it hit me. It hit me as reading, but it was. I left the train with a sense of hope, and I know that the letter was so hopeful. It was a sad, and it made me think on people I've known and students I've had, and just the topic in general. And I just couldn't help but essentially write the comments and about that. And it was never, as we say, it wasn't. It was just a feeling at a certain time that song was wrote about. That's what it was. It wasn't. I didn't write it to try and create this big message or do anything like that. But as we
Hmm.
always say, and since I've met these two men, we're just so honest with each other as three men, and I don't think I've had that before with other people. Or and if we openly talk about everything between the three of us, and it was just felt like the Commons was just kind of that. It was just, this is a song that I've wrote. It's a story. It's what happened, and it had to be put out, and we love it. And the instrumental at the end, I suppose, to me, it was hugely important that was that hope, that sense of light, and it does feel, especially in the live gigs as well, you can kind of feel that hope. I think that's, I don't know if the boys have anything to add, but that was the story behind it.
100%. No, that's it.
That's nail on the head. Yeah.
Yeah, to find that letter too. I mean, that
Yeah.
would have been heavy in itself, and then to be able to create such a beautiful song out of that experience. I mean, wow.
Yeah, I think, but and I can't speak on her behalf at all. But I think there was letters left many places maybe, and I know this one actually could have been even in one of the papers at the time. Um, and her message was for hope, and I just took that with me and wrote my own story about it and my own story about people I've known, and I just extended it a bit into a song maybe, and put my own twist on that hope.
Love
Yeah,
it.
and
And
we were quite conscious bringing it out at him. Obviously, it's so sensitive, and we've no real like agenda behind the song. We just kind of it's to open the conversation and the dialogue around suicide and everything because everyone knows somebody, and we're very
Mhm.
open as a group. So that was that's why it's just a special song to bring out. I absolutely love that song.
Yeah, I
And
think the lads hit the nail on the head there, Adam. But I mentioned it earlier. From the minute we met each other, I was probably more honest with these two guys than I have been with some of my best friends. You know, my whole life. I think where we're from in Ireland as well, there probably is a stigma around the topic, and there is a thing with men that we bottle up our feelings a lot, and you know we don't actually say what we're feeling. And you've heard it. I think the sport in Ireland, the GEA, there's a lot of big players and advocates coming out and talking about the things that they've experienced and randomly bursting out crying for no reason and stuff like this. It's in everyone. It's in men and women, and I think men are just a little bit less likely to talk about it. And I think myself and the lads, when we met, and when Amble got going, we were never afraid to tell each other if we were having an off day because everyone does. Some like it was so stressful for a long time. We were working two jobs basically, and we weren't afraid to tell each other that, geez, I don't feel too good today. I'm not in the headspace to meet up later or to do this Zoom call or something. And I think it was the other two boys appreciating that and that honesty that just felt. I think it just felt so comfortable straight away, and it felt like an environment where you can just really, really be yourself and hide nothing. And I think that's why our songs and our songwriting and the music that has come out of that is so honest and it's so deep. People
yeah,
slag
it
us
feels
like
safe, right? It's like a safe.
it
You
feels
feel
safe.
safe to say these things and have these conversations
Yeah,
with these two guys without
totally.
feeling like
Yeah.
they're gonna be like, oh, look at this, what's up with this guy? Or
No.
have some judgment.
Completely, yeah. And I think even like people like my own father and stuff at sometimes would say, "Oh, would you not write more lively songs, or get because but it's just what we write what comes out and we will and we do have a lovely mix of music and our live shows are very much anything from a quiet ballad where the whole audience is completely quiet to Ross jumping around the crowd literally in the middle of them playing his bouzouki and everyone jumping. So there is a nice mix, but I love that. I love being able to bring everyone up and also bring them down. Yeah,
And I love that you all are songwriters. Like I wouldn't, you usually most assume like, oh, Robbie probably writes all the lyrics and the songs just
Mhm.
because he's the singer. The fact that you all contribute your own songs
Yeah,
to the project
yeah,
is
it's
Yeah,
something that most bands don't have. Three
yeah,
songwriters, right?
Yeah, fully, Adam. And I think as well, on an earlier point, I think that's also why things went quick, in a sense, in that we all came with a bank of songs. So although we only knew each other a few months, we had like 10 or 11 songs that we were playing and bashing out. And it was like we were picking ones from each other, and it just made a set list and a live gig kind of seem not relatively easy, but we just had the songs there because the three of us wrote, and it was, yeah, it's hugely, again, maybe not normal, but it's hugely beneficial, and why we work so well together as friends as well. Like
yeah.
we all write.
I think when we were opening as well for other acts, we'd play a set list of 7, 8 songs, and they'd all be originals. And people would come up to you afterwards and say, "Oh, I love that song. Like who was the original there? Or that's a
Who
great
wrote it?
cover. Yeah, who wrote it?" And I'd be saying, "Oisin, he wrote it." And they wouldn't believe you because a lot of the songs do sound like they were written maybe 100 years ago, like Mariner Boy and these type of songs. They don't sound like you know, a 25-year-old in Ireland wrote it last year. It sounds like someone wrote it. It sounds like an 80-year-old man wrote it 100 years ago. But you're an old soul, I shall love you. But
I love
yeah,
that.
no,
And I love that
that was
you get
cool.
to really drop your egos. I mean, there's no ego there too, to be able to say, "Oh, no, this is a great song," especially when coming up with the EP. I mean, if everyone writes, it's like,
Yeah,
"Oh, like, oh, that's a great song, Ross. That's gonna make the album, or that's gonna make this." Like, it's not like, well, well,
No,
I'm the singer, or I'm this, and I like these all need to be my songs. You know what I mean? Like, to
I
not
think
have that, it helps. I'm sure your band just
yeah,
yeah, I think
obviously
I've learned
excel
at least.
faster.
Yeah, I think I've learned at least that we must think very, very similarly because we all seem to like the same ones. And if there's one that's like we don't like it, we all don't like it. We're very lucky in that sense, Adam. And I don't think that's probably the other case in other bands, but I wouldn't have known that. Like I was never in a band before Amble.
yeah.
Uh, and it seems that we're very much on the same wavelength.
Yeah,
And
I as well to I think we came into this as a band. I've often said we were a band before we were friends, so we were very open with each other. That it was all we talked about for the first few weeks and months was music and how we can make that better and how we can change that. And there was no feeling of I better not hurt his feelings because he's my friend,
Oh, right.
because he wasn't my friend at the time.
No, that makes sense. Or it's like it's
but
when siblings are in bands. It's like,
but
well, I don't really care if I hurt your feelings because you're gonna love me anyway
yeah,
because I'm your brother or whatever.
exactly. But we never fell out about music. We not once, and we've never fell out at all. But like from day dot, it was always just this. We were passionate about the same types of music, and it just worked. It just felt well. And then we're best friends.
Right.
As you can tell. But I think
We
that open dialogue from the get go, because we didn't know each other, was made it so much easier to be in sync with each other.
And
Yeah.
I think the open dialogue is one thing, but it's also we have a WhatsApp group and we just fire in, you know, if you've written lyrics or if you've written a song, we fire in the lyrics and then we fire in a voice note afterwards of me singing the song or us, you know, whatever. And I think straight away you can tell if the guys like it, they latch onto it and say this has huge potential or whatever. But also on the flip side of things, if you put in a song and it's radio silence for 10
Left on
hours
red.
and then someone goes, "So what are we doing tomorrow?" You're just like, "Ah, sure.
Like, okay.
Forget about that song." Yeah,
You're
but
like, can I unsend this?
yeah,
Oh,
that's how it
man.
works. It's literally just WhatsApp voice notes, and that's how all of our songs have started.
I love it. Well, man, I love what you guys are doing. The songs are so good. Congratulations on all the success. I would have never guessed that this band had just started, so quickly ago. And man, congrats on the shows. And you guys were just here in the States, and hopefully you come back again soon and play here in Nashville because I want to see you all.
Sure.
yeah, I would love to go to
Thank-
Nashville.
Yeah, 100%. Thanks so
Um,
much, Adam.
Yeah, I
Pleasure.
have one more question for you before I let you go, real quick. If I want to get an answer from all of you individually, if I could, if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
Find a Ross. No. I'll think about it. Annie, you ready to rock with that one?
Yeah, mine one is not going to be a shock. It's definitely just to write songs, because I think there's a lot of really good singers and there's a lot of really good musicians, and some people are both, and they might be an incredible singer and singing covers and stuff. And I think there's just that bridge of writing your first song is a huge one, and the first song won't be the best one, like, and to just write songs and see what happens and send it to your dad or send it to your friend and just see what happens and just get it going.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I'd say to maybe lose the ego. I think that was my problem for a long time too. I was too afraid of failure, and I was too afraid of sitting in the corner of a bar playing and no one listening to me, that it would hit my ego too much, or that it would hurt me too much. I'd be disheartened by people not connecting to it. I think you have to go for it, and you have to put yourself in comfortable positions and put yourself out of your comfort zone. I think that was a huge thing with Amble for me. I never sang on stage before in front of anyone, and then for so long I'd listen back to our own gigs, and I didn't even sound great because I was so nervous. But I knew if I kept doing it, that I would lose those nerves, and I'd be able to sing the way I can sing, and I think definitely that, just just keep putting yourself out of your comfort zone, and good things will happen.
Yeah, for me, it's a mix, but I would say play them all. Play all the gigs, play the weddings and the funerals and the whatever you need to do. Because I think for me, it was like I played every type of music I could just to play. But when you find the one music you love, I would hone in on it. That will be my word of advice. Because it took me, as I said, it took me until meeting these two boys to really hone in on let's call it a craft as a musician. I played every type of music, and I think that was the best thing I could have done because it led me to the type of music I love. So that would be my advice.
Bringin it backward.